Hello, and thank you all so much for being here at the 11th Annual Forward Festival. Plus, a big thank you to Forward Fest and all the sponsors that worked hard to make this truly unique festival happen this year, including American Family Insurance, Michael Best Attorneys, which I personally rave about, Wharf, and many others, including Swink, 3M Insurance, MG&E, and more. My name is Emily Ruyle, and I'm the co-founder and CMO of Wad Bottom. Our company is an athletic apparel brand that specializes in making women look and feel their strongest by making tops and bottoms for a more muscly woman. But when we started this company, we had a much bigger dream in mind. We wanted to encourage and empower women to love themselves and to embrace their power and worth. But to get to that point, we need to go back a few decades. And don't worry, I'll give you the short version. I grew up in a home where domestic violence was commonplace. I learned about my self-worth from watching an incredibly toxic and destructive relationship play out in front of me. I learned about my self-worth by being told I had none. Thankfully, by the time I was 14, my mother found the incredible courage to leave my father. I saw her bloom in the freedom and was continually amazed by her as she rebuilt an incredible life, all while taking care of 4 kids. Because of my experiences and a drive to turn something bad into something positive, I've been driven to empower and support women, however and wherever I can. I wanted to help women know and understand their worth, that they are powerful and that they are capable. When my partner/husband and I started to dream about Wad Bottom 5 years ago, I realized I could combine a passion for creativity with a platform to help women gain confidence and find their voices. Because even though I never dreamed I would be designing workout apparel, I always knew I wanted to make a difference in the lives of women. I started to dream big, about a place where women believed they were worthy of love and respect, capable of anything they set their minds to, and where women believed wholeheartedly that they're just as capable as men. And I dreamed of a business that encouraged women to be incredibly, undeniably, and unapologetically strong, both physically and mentally. I thought back to my younger self, and to my mother and what she must have believed about herself in her younger years too. And I thought about the women out there who believe the lies they are told. I know there are too many women out there who believe the negative projections the world has taught them to believe. Too many women who look in the mirror and instead of embracing their bodies and their power and their incredible potential, see nothing but imperfection. Who here has ever looked in a mirror and felt shame or disappointment? Or have ever heard a small voice whisper, "No, you can't. You aren't good enough. You aren't smart enough. You aren't worthy of that success." I wanted to play some part, however small, in changing that narrative. That's how the purpose of Wad Bottom came to fruition. We strive to create a culture of body positivity and confidence with our fans. I've never been thin or necessarily active, and I've never ever been slender with a tiny waist and gaps between my thighs. I've got curves, bulk, and I've got muscle. It took me a long time to appreciate that about myself. Through lifting and cross-training, I learned to use my muscles to my advantage. I learned that when I feel strong, I feel the most capable in other areas as well. Like many Americans, I jumped on board the CrossFit train several years ago as it gained in popularity. For those who aren't familiar with CrossFit, it's an ever-changing, full-body, high-intensity workout designed to test your physical and mental toughness every time you exercise. There are burpees and rowing machines, weight vests, and tire flips. It's a combination of powerlifting, gymnastics, and some might say absolute torture. But these workouts inspired me. They celebrated women's strength, both physically and mentally. And for the first time, my bulging biceps and curvaceous backside were signs of success. Not only did CrossFit inspire my workouts, they inspired our brand. WOD in CrossFit lingo means workout of the day. The workout is always different and unexpected and sometimes terrifying. I wanted to celebrate the WOD and the strength and courage it takes to show up every day and take on that challenge. And the bottom in WOD bottom, if you show up for your WOD, you'll have a nice bottom, is where our mindset was when we came up with the name. But it turned out to be complete foreshadowing to what our products would eventually be. Because in the beginning, we threw a wide net of CrossFit gear, but the wide net allowed us to discover what worked. Just like testing my body with CrossFit and weightlifting, being a female entrepreneur has tested me in ways I never even knew were possible. And it revealed to me both subtle and incredibly overt ways society makes women doubt themselves and their abilities, particularly when it comes to starting and growing a business. From the day we are born, little girls are taught to be pretty much everything they're not. We are told to be thin, to be curvy, to be seen and not heard. Advertising teaches us that the female ideal is also never attainable. Sometimes we're told a thin body with perfect skin, shiny white teeth, and perfectly manicured nails is the ideal. The next time we open a magazine, the ideal we're being told to be curvy with a big, but not too big, backside. Coming from a marketing background, I can see right through the messaging. If women felt like they were good enough and had what it takes already, the beauty market would disappear. And most detrimentally, we're taught that women are almost never the boss, but instead best kept on the sidelines, even if they are equally capable as the men who reach the top of the professional ladder. Whether purposeful or not, these lessons follow us through our teen years and as we enter adulthood. Women don't become leaders. Women don't make effective CEOs. Women are too sensitive and too emotional, we're told. These projections from years and decades of experiences, words, media, and relationships, they all create this culture of women who doubt their abilities, who believe themselves incapable and unworthy. That's why so many women shy away from challenges and fail to take their rightful place in the center of something incredible. It's because we believe this false narrative, this lie that we've been fed our entire lives. And let me just press pause here and say that this is not meant to be a man-bashing speech, not at all. I have an incredible husband who also recognizes these inequalities for women, who is my partner in WOD Bottom and is an incredible human being. I also value the male leaders who have guided me along the way. So before you tune out, I'm not saying men are bad. I'm not even saying women are better than men. I'm just saying it's time that women start believing we are equal to men. We are every bit as capable, every bit as intelligent, and every bit as worthy of professional and personal success. So what then makes an effective leader? More specifically, what makes an effective female leader? Because let's be honest, even though we are equal to our male counterparts, we are different. So our leadership styles should be too. Effective leadership, whether in business, in fitness, or among a group of your peers, is about value. Value starts with vulnerability. How many of you have heard of Brené Brown? She is this incredible social researcher and speaker who has made an entire career out of studying shame. Sounds depressing, right? Shame is this visceral, deeply personal belief that we are not good enough, that we are not worthy. This seems like such a heavy topic. Why would anyone want to spend their entire life studying shame? But if you've ever seen Brown's TED Talks or read her books, you know that her research brings about so much hope and truth. See, through her research, Brown found that there's but one antidote to shame, and that is vulnerability. Being honest about who we are, our perfections, quirks, and fears is what draws others to us and makes us relatable. She describes vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Being vulnerable doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. And too often, particularly as women, we tend to veer off in one or two directions. On one hand, we try to put up this tough exterior, go toe-to-toe with the good old boys, whether we are stone-faced with a take no prisoners attitude. We don't open up about anything in our business that scares us or confuses us. And we sure as hell don't let emotions play a role in our business or in our interactions with staff. On the other hand, some women choose to be the inauthentic optimist who never admits to a bad day, who always sees the glass half full, even when it's clearly 100% empty. She plays it safe, she doesn't rock the boat, and she doesn't take risks. Because she doesn't ever admit fear or doubt, those around her feel shame over their own worries, and any authenticity is lost. A good leader, says Brené Brown, risks vulnerability. In her book, Dare to Lead, Brown says, if we want people to fully show up, to bring their whole selves, including their unarmored whole hearts, so that we can innovate, solve problems, and serve people, we have to be vigilant about creating a culture in which people feel safe, seen, heard, and respected. If we want others to be authentic, to feel comfortable bringing us their concerns, ideas, and uncertainties, then we need to be vulnerable too. And that means taking off the mask of perfection and stoicism. True leaders show vulnerability and authenticity, because when we do, those around us break down their walls too. And that leads to much more effective collaboration, communication, and community. Second, leaders must be accountable. If you want others to freely admit their mistakes, you must model that behavior. Admitting when you're wrong can be the hardest thing in the world to do, especially for female entrepreneurs. We've been conditioned to believe that we only gain the world's acceptance if we are perfect. But here is what I need you to hear today. Perfection is a myth. No one is perfect. One of the things I love the most about our company or our community at Wad Bottom is that we all have fun coming up with ideas for shirt prints and short patterns. For example, a sloth riding a hammerhead shark. Funny, I know, but our fans love our fun and funky designs. Anyway, I designed a shirt called Hundo P, which stands for always giving 100%. Conceptually, it's a great shirt, but in reality, it's a slow-selling product that ended up in clearance. Sharing ideas can be scary. I know my younger self would have shied away, but having freely admitted that the Hundo P tank was a failure, it allows our team to feel safe sharing their ideas without the fear of shame. Giving yourself permission to mess up and then admit when you're wrong signals to everyone around you that it's okay for them to hold themselves accountable too. Be accountable for your mistakes. Give yourself forgiveness when you mess up, and extend that same understanding and acceptance for those around you. Thirdly, a leader must always be learning. Before you became an entrepreneur, how many of you believed you didn't yet know enough to start your business? How many of you realize now that you'll never really know enough? Learning and acknowledging that you have much to learn makes you a better leader. As a female business owner, it's all too easy to feel pressure to know more than men. And yes, to know more than other women also. I feel the pressure to show how smart I am, to prove that I deserve to be counted among them. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know something because of the fear that this makes you look inadequate or weak or incompetent. Because here's the thing, they don't know it all either. If we return to Brené Brown's idea of vulnerability in leadership, we learn that part of being vulnerable is admitting that we don't have all the answers. We've been so conditioned to believe that the leaders we follow, business leaders, teachers, doctors, faith leaders, they have all the answers, but they don't. None of us do. Part of being a good leader, being a vulnerable leader, is listening to those around us and learning from what they have to say. Everyone can teach you something, and everyone has something to offer. As leaders, we should be continually learning, not just about business and marketing, but about people, about what matters to our colleagues, our employees, and our customers, what matters to our communities, what matters to our families as we expand our businesses and spend more time in the office. How can we move our business forward while maintaining our mission and our core values? The best leaders never stop learning. Great leaders embrace their uniqueness and celebrate the diversity of others. Here's where women really shine, because we have unique abilities and traits that men just don't have. Those differences make us uniquely qualified to be leaders, both in our businesses and in our lives. Of course, we're stereotyping a bit here because not all women exhibit these traits and not all men lack these traits. But let's go over some general characteristics that give women leaders an advantage over their male counterparts. Let's think about some of the traits women possess that men aren't stereotypically known to possess. Empathy, willing to ask for help when needed, nurturing, patience, working together, cooperation, making sure everyone feels included and belongs, great at multitasking, strong communicators, approachable, especially with emotional issues, understanding family and work balance challenges, and we're strong listeners. All of these traits that make women unique, they're also what make us good leaders. Too often, female entrepreneurs feel like they have to box up these feminine traits and stuff them in a closet if they're to be effective leaders. Too often, traditionally, female attributes are spun as negatives. Being patient and empathetic is in a non-female centric industry isn't seen as a good thing. Instead, it's seen as being weak, lacking urgency, or being a pushover. Female entrepreneurs are too often encouraged to be tougher, work faster, and ignore our more sensitive parts. Also, often these traits are spun as negative, like patience might be seen as taking too long or having no urgency. But I think that embracing what makes us unique, our defining characteristics, also make us uniquely qualified to be leaders. For instance, if you stifle your nurturing spirit, you may miss out on opportunities to mentor an up-and-coming employee. That employee may one day start a business of her own. And if you take the opportunity to nurture her, to empathize with her, and show that you're approachable and vulnerable and constantly learning new things, you could change her entire trajectory. You could empower her to become a leader that helps 10 other young women believe their own abilities in turn. And if you are uniquely empathetic, don't try and turn that off. Understanding that the people around you and showing compassion doesn't make you weak. Quite the opposite. Taking the time to connect deeply with people you lead shows how much you value each individual. Empathy makes others feel seen, feel special, and feel valued. There is no weakness in that. So instead of letting entrepreneurship harden your heart, use your unique characteristics to your advantage. Be exactly who you are, because you are already capable and qualified to be a leader. How great that we can completely change the landscape of business and leadership, not by being tougher, but simply by being more vulnerable, by being ourselves. Furthermore, just as you celebrate your own unique characteristics, an effective leader also values the uniqueness of others. Too often, women have been conditioned to believe that we're in competition with one another. We've been raised to believe that two women cannot succeed. If one woman is to win, another must fail. But I'm here to tell you that when women cheer one another on, embracing their differences and celebrating each other's victories, that's what makes us all winners. As a leader, your goal should not be to keep others below you. Instead, your goal should be to lift others up. Find what makes your employees, your clients, colleagues, and members of your community unique, and celebrate those differences. Where you have weaknesses, someone else has strength. And where others fail, you excel. Embrace that. Embrace the collective skills of your team, because humanity is incredibly diverse. And when we put our collective strengths together, there is no limit to what we can accomplish. Finally, effective female leaders focus on empowering themselves and others. Now, that's become sort of a buzzword these days, women's empowerment. So let's step back a minute. When I talk about female empowerment, I'm talking about creating an environment that gives women the resources, support, and encouragement they need to make decisions that improve their own lives. Empowerment is saying to women, yes, you can, and then giving them the tools they need to make it happen. Empowerment is telling women, do not believe the lies you are telling yourself. You are worthy and you are capable. Female leaders empower others simply by showing up each day. When you engage in your business and your community with vulnerability and authenticity, you're empowering women to do the same. When you accept responsibility for your mistakes and expect others to do the same, you're empowering women to let go of the unrealistic expectations of perfection. When you embrace your unique talents and then celebrate the uniqueness of others, you're empowering women to build each other up rather than tear each other down. And when you encourage others to be their best and partner with them to help them achieve their goals, you empower women to believe that anything is possible. But more than anything, when you show up in your business authentically and unapologetically, you're empowering yourself. You're taking the dreams of that little girl into your own hands, and you're making them a reality. Empowerment has been a core pillar of Wad Bottom from the very beginning. I knew I wanted my business to give back to victims of domestic violence. That's why Wad Bottom donates to Domestic Abuse Intervention Services, whose mission is to help both men and women escape abusive situations and give them the tools they need to build healthy lives after violence. DAYS empowers survivors. This organization helps them find their voice, speak up against their accusers, and take back their own power over their lives. And by donating to this cause, Wad Bottom hopes we can help women overcome the shame so many survivors feel. You know, as I share these insights with you, imagining your faces, it's hard not to stop and think back to that little girl who struggled with self-image and self-worth. I see my story reflected in so many of you, And in this webinar filled with other strong women, I am so thankful for the female leaders who have come before me, who were there to guide me and empower me and teach me that vulnerability is always the better way. May we continue to live authentically, to give value to our businesses and our lives. And may we send a different message to little girls who are watching us, that they are incredibly capable and talented, that their worth isn't measured in the size of their waist, but in the size of their heart. Thank you. If you have any questions, this would be the time to ask. Here's one. Someone's asking about what book I had mentioned. The book is Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. Here's another great question. What is the working dynamic between you and your husband? That is a great question, and one we get asked pretty often. As a small business, we have our hands in almost all aspects of our business, all aspects of Wad Bottom. But we also have pretty well-defined roles, and we also trust each other's decisions, whatever they may come up, whether it's employees or marketing, design. Here is a great question from Alex. What is your vision for your company in the next 5 years? That is a great question that we have thought about a lot, actually. And that is that obviously we want to continue to grow and expand our reach to include more products and expand our reach to more customers as we expand our products as well. Certainly men's is something that we have talked about getting into, but the core of Wad Bottom, what will always be this customer-centric business where we're uplifting others. So as long as we are keeping that in line and that in the next 5 years, we'll be on track. Here's a question. Are there other books you would recommend? Yes, there is a book. The author's name is escaping me, but the title of the book is called Loving What Is. It's really wonderful in helping you think about the voices in your head and what you continue to tell yourself, and then how to work away from that negative self-talk or the negative talk about other things. It's kind of just you're responsible for your own feelings, and it teaches you to not project your feelings and thoughts and your assumptions onto other people so that you can live your best life. Here's a great question. Can you think of a specific incident business-wide where your approach and being a woman was sorely tested? You know, my husband and I have been with Wad Bottom, or working on Wad Bottom for 5 years, but it wasn't always so easy. And by easy, I mean identified roles where we really could excel in one particular area. And certainly communicating with my husband/partner, who was a male, and communicating what I meant and what I felt was very difficult in the beginning. So I think now within the last 3 years, we've learned how to communicate and get out what we mean. I feel like as a woman, and especially a woman in Wisconsin or the Midwest, it's really easy to tiptoe around what you think those feelings are, which is why that one book would be great, the Loving What Is, because it also helps you to communicate what you really mean. And it usually ends up something personal or emotional, on my end instead of projecting my assumptions on someone else. Absolutely love the value you're giving back to DAYS and community building organizations. Have you thought about how you will maintain and grow those contributions and values as you scale? Oh, absolutely. Actually, Than, my husband, is awesome at coming at great ways to enhance the help that we can provide. So aside from just constantly increasing the percentage of contribution in terms of our sales, we also are coming out with products where we'll donate 100% of the proceeds to DAYS as well. Come in October, we'll have a line of clothes that will all be donated back. So, and that's something that we're testing out. It's the first time doing it this October, but who knows where we'll go after that. What is your biggest piece of advice for women early on in their career? As an entrepreneur, as a woman entrepreneur, it's easy to compare yourself to other businesses. What is and focusing on what your competitors are doing and what they're doing, you know, how they're so much bigger and better. But I think if you want to be successful and build your business where it has your voice, then you need to kind of have those blinders on so that you can focus on your own work and not give up. And by blinders, I don't mean turn off any knowledge of your competitors. Look and see what's working for them, what you appreciate about their stuff, their marketing campaigns or their voice, but then create it on your own version. Don't be discouraged by their success. Let that drive you, let that fuel you. All right, and that was the last question. I don't see anything else. Thank you so much again for joining me.